Several metro stations were forced to close after water cascaded down, stairways were portions of rail line were suspended. At least 14 flights were delayed or delayed on Charles de Gaulle and Orly airports and again about 114 km on our battered runway. The 11 tower safety lights temporarily shut down due to the electrical surge in the 17th around this section of scaffolding for the nearby structure, cities collapsing on the streets. Miraculously, no fatalities were reported. 35 people were injured, including 2 firefighters. Paris Major Ana Hidalgo called on an emergency meeting early Wednesday, urging calm to promises with restoration efforts. Our infrastructure, who pushed to the limits, she said. These events once again demonstrated the urgent need to climate adaptation in urban areas. Meteorologists described the storm as one of the most intense connective systems in decades, caused by the collisions in the humid Mediterranean air with a cold front swept in the Atlantic. This class generation is supercell system production extreme lighting activity flash flooding across central France. Across social media, dramatic footage showed hail blanket sidewalks like a snow, bases standing in rising water and a lightning bolt sinking near the Egg de Tourmaine. Ile-de-France region, bringing hurricane force winds, torrential rain and intense lighting that lit up the Parisian skyline. When our iconic boulevards were transformed into rivers, metro stations were flooded and thousands were left without electricity. According to Meteo France, when the gusts exceeded 120 km an hour in parts of the capital, with more than 16 mm of rain fell in just 3 hours, an amount normally seen over several weeks. The Seine River rose rapidly and water poured in unpressed to underground car park near the city center. I feel like the sky exploded, said Marie Dupont, a resident of a Montreal district. It was a thunder every few seconds, windows shaking and water gushing through the streets like a waterfall. Emergency service received over 1,200 calls during the night, rescuing driving trapped in submerged tunnels and responded to multiple reports of fallen trees. In the 15th arrondissement, the large earth collapsing out parked vehicles were parts of the Champs-Élysées were breathlessly closed due to debris. Spain is reeling after a violent storm swept through the large part of the country, bringing torrential rain, violent wind and sudden hailstorms that turned streets into river overnight. The region of Madrid, Valencia and Andalusia were among the hardest hit, as emergency service walked through the night and the rescue standard residents to clear blocked roads. Meteorologists described the event as one of the most intense autumn storms in recent years. It will the gusts exceeded 120 km an hour in capital areas. The Spanish weather agency issued red alert, warning cities to stay during where necessary travel. In Madrid, heavy flooding forced the closure of several metro stations and caused several traffic chaos. It was like a waterfall coming down the streets, said local resident Laura Gomez. Cars were flooding, trees were fallen. It felt apocalyptic. In Valencia, firefighters reported the dozens of emergency calls and a flash flood inundated in low-lying neighborhoods. Farmers estimated the dramatic at $1 million, especially in vineyards that produced world-famous wines. It's devastating, said Jean-Paul Lefroy, a winemaker near Lyon. In just 10 minutes, the works and the entire season was destroyed. Further east in Croatia and Slovenia, hailstones the size of eggs smashed windows and stripped streets bare. Emergency service worked through the night and cleared debris to restore power to affected areas. Local authority described the damage as serious and extensive. Meteorologists across Europe are linking the surge in severe hailstorm to rising temperature and atmospheric instability. The Mediterranean is warming faster than the global average, warning climatologist Dr. Elena Moretti. This creates ideal conditions to explosive storm to formation of giant hailstorm. The European Severe Laboratory reported that more than 400 hail-related incidents were recorded in 34 hours, of extremely high number of October. Experts warn that such events once considered rare and now becoming more common due to the effects of climate change. Cleanup efforts are underway across the continent and insurance companies are assessing the extent of the damage. From broken skylets in Rome and flooded streets in Munich and stories fury that what yet another stark reminder that Europe weather is becoming more unpredictable and dangerous than ever before. A sudden and severe hailstorm swept across southern Poland, leaving scene of destruction in its wake and prompted urgent calls to help. The storm, which struck on a Monday evening, battered town and villages with a hailstone the size of walnuts, smashing windows, damaged cars and distorted crops in the middle of the harvest season. Farmers in the Motopolska and Podkarpacia region reported catastrophic losses. In the 10 minutes, everything he had worked in the year was destroyed, said Porent Nowak, a farmer from the near Tarnow. The fields looked as someone had chopped them up with the knives. Agriculture representative estimated hundreds of hectares of corn, potatoes and orange have been destroyed, with the could lead higher food prices in the coming month. Residents described chaos and the hail-pounded roofs and blanket drain caused sudden flooding in the city streets. Emergency service responded to hundreds of calls, and a fire crews worked through the night and cleared debris and secured damaged homes. Fortunately, no deaths were reported, although several people suffered minor injuries from the broken glass. Local authorities are assessing the damage with estimated to be tens of millions of euros. The Polish Meteorological Institute was warned for the Celtic cold more storms in the coming days are unstoppable weather continue to prevail in Central Europe. Climatologists note in the frequency of such extreme weather events in increasing. Hailstorm of this intensity used to be a rare phenomenon, but climate change is affecting weather conditions across the continent, said Dr. Marta Zelinska and the climatologist of University of Warsaw. For many, recovery will be long and difficult. We will build everything, but it seems that nature is tasting other the more year, said resident Anna Kowalska, standing near the destroyed greenhouse. A series of powerful hailstorms swept across Europe, causing chaos, destruction and dramatic scenes from Italy to Germany, France and Croatia. The storm intensified the collision of the most Mediterranean air and the cold front moving from the north brought the goal-sized hailstorms, strong winds and torrential rain disrupted transport, agriculture and daily life in several countries. In northern Italy, the region in Lombardy and Emilia-Romagna were worst affected. A road turned wide and a hailstorm blanket crisis in a minute, smashed car wide shift and destroyed it vineyard and crops. It sounded like a shot of the roof, say Marco Rossi, a resident of Bologna, describing the definite noise of a hail pounding its house. Meanwhile, in southern Germany, emergency service responded to hundreds of calls when powerful supercell storm hit Bavaria. Roofs were damaged, trees were uprooted and train service were temporarily suspended. In Munich, trams and buses were suspended after the ice blocked tracks. We haven't seen such large hailstorms in many years, said meteorologist Anna Weber of the German Meteorological Service. In France of the storm front caused chaos in a Rhode Alps region, where dramatic footage showed hail covering fields like snow. Train service was suspended in several provinces, and dozens of flights were cancelled. He rerouted the Charles of Gaulle and Orly airport. In a Burdex vineyard already vacated the wet summer suffered further damage, raising fears and a poor harvest. We have lost entire section of our vineyard, explained Windmarker Claire Roseau. This is a devastation blow to our livelihood. And in French, entire minister deployed 3,500 firefighters, and the regional governor urged residents to stay indoors. 2 deaths have been confirmed, including the driver who was gassed and crushed in the fallen trees. Meteorologists said the storm was caused by the warm Atlantic air cooled in with a cold Arctic system, resulting in strong winds. Such events are becoming more frequent in the intense, warned climatologist Dr. Jean Morel, linking the storm to changing climate conditions. President Emmanuel Macron experienced solidarity with the affected families, promising rapid assistance to fund the recovery. But for many residents, the night of destruction will not forget anytime soon. We had storm before, said local teacher Sophie Laurent from Naples, but never anything that shocked to earth so much. Paris, France, the heat of European most iconic city through the interdisarray as a violent overnight storm battered Paris and surrounding suburbs, leaving behind the trail of destruction rarely seen in modern times. The fire and tempest driven by the deep Atlantic pressure system unleashed torrential rainfall, different thunder and hurricane-force winds, plunged parts of the capital in the darkness and the chaos. According to the Meteor of France, Paris endured record-breaking rainfall, more than 16 mm in just 4 hours, flooding entire districts including said German Dispel, Baseline and Atlantic water. The city again drainage networks strategically to cope, tuning cobblestone streets into fast-moving rivers. It was terrifying, said Marie Dupont, who lives near Jared Lion. Within a minute, water was knee-deep. Cars were flooding. The lighting was so bright it felt like it drying for a second. Authorities reported over 1,800 emergency calls, with firefighters rescuing dozens trapped in the basements and underground car park. This was an unexceptional weather event, said Franco Delit, spokesman of French National Meteorological Service, Meteor France. The storm formed rapidly over the Atlantic and intensified it as it reached the Paris basin, a pattern we have seen more often due to rising sea surface temperatures. Paris Mayor Ana Hidalgo urged residents to remain caution, warning they feel the storm forecast in the coming days. We are facing the realities of the climate change, she said. Our city must strengthen the drainage system and emergency infrastructure. As the drone broke, Paris woke a scene of chaos, flooded metro assistant, trenches, debris streets, and smelled the wet stone rising from the historic ruins. Yet, when the damage many experienced relieved the scene of the remained below critical flood levels. Paris was seen centuries of the storm, said local historian Jean-Luc Bernard. But each time we are reminded no beauty and frugality walk hard in the city.
Bumm! Konstantin gemacht!
Powerful storm swept across France, caused destructive wind, torrential rain, and widespread flooding that left millions of people homeless. Authorities say it's one of the most severe weather events in the country in recent years. The Atlantic coast was hardest hit by the storm, with the wind gusts reaching 116 km/h in the Brittany and Normandy. Streets were littered, the fallen trees, roofs were torn off, houses and boats crashed into the Hamburg wall. It was one of the sea wanted to swallow the city, said fisherman Marie Dupont from the St. Malo Mello describing the waves crashing about the pier. Paris was not spared either. Heavy rain overwhelmed the capital drainage system, flooding parts of the metro and forcing passengers at the west through the knee-deep water. Emergency service responded to more than 700 calls across the country in just 24 hours. Power outage affected nearly half a million people, particularly in the western region, and utility companies working around the clock to restore service.
Allez, ça y est, il n'y a plus d'électrique.
Je m'excuse, il y a une tempête derrière nous là.
Schools were ordered to close. Authority urged residents to stay indoors. Witnesses described terrifying scenes. It was like a river rushing down by our streets. Cars were flooding and shops' windows collapsing in a matter of minutes, said Joe Martinez, a shop owner in central Valencia. Farmers in the surrounding area reported catastrophic losses with the citrus grove and the rice fields devastation of the flood. Local authorities have declared a state of emergency, and the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez was pledged immediate assistance. The government stand with Valencia, will rebuild and support all families affected. Experts warn that climate change is intensifying. Extreme weather events in the Mediterranean were warnings increasing the risk in torrential rain and flash floods in Valencia. The storm has left a trail of destruction and urged questions about preparedness of the storm to come. Major boulevard from Camps Elias and Boulevard Saint Germain turned to Russian River, submerged vehicles including metro station. The Red B and Light 7 were partly suspended water pouring on the tracks, while traffic ground and a half along the Seine were rising water tethering the riverbanks and cafes. The water came like a wave, said cafe owner Material owner. Those small restaurant near multiple that flooded with a minute. People were screaming, chairs were flooding. It felt like a city was drawing. The Louvre Museum and Musée Old Drive both activated flood protection barriers, moving earthworks store and ground to the higher floors, a precaution not taken since the Great Flood of 2016. The Elef Tower temporarily closed. A light storm struck nearly, creating a surreal stain that thinly echoes across the darkened skyline. Authority reported no fatalities, though at least 14 people were rescued from submerged vehicles and several were treated to hypothermia. Emergency crew worked throughout the night and pumped water from the metro tunnels and cleared fallen trees at the blocked roads in the 16th and 19th around these months. The Spanish region of Valencia has been hit by a severe storm that has brought torrential rain, violent winds and severe flooding, leaving streets submerged and continues gradually to recover. Meteorologists say a system filled the moisture by Mediterranean, dumping more than 200 mm of rain in just 24 hours, one of the most intense downpour in decades. Entire neighborhoods in the city of Valencia were left underwater, and the residents were forced to wade through waist-deep water. Emergency service carried out hundreds of rescue, including drivers trapped in submerged cars and families evacuated from ground floor apartments. At least 4 fatalities have been confirmed, while dozens of people have been injured by falling debris and traffic incidents. The part of Valencia where the barriers in Europe was temporarily closed after crane that knocked down by strong winds disrupted shipments across the Mediterranean. Public transport was brought in a standstill. Subway lines were suspended, flights were diverted, and rail services were cancelled throughout the region. The Spanish Meteorological Service has declared a red alert for the eastern parts of the Valencia region due to heavy rain. Thursday, a repeat of the flooding that killed 235 people in the area last October. Spanish National Meteorological Service warned of extreme danger and a very difficult situation in Tarragona, Castilla and Valencia on a Sunday and Monday. On this warning was echoed Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. Citing of meteorological warning, Sanchez urged citizens to follow the instruction of the emergency service to all times. Local official announced that school and college, libraries and parks, as well as public space including gardens, markets and cemeteries would be closed in the Valencia on a Monday. Overnight rains caused local flooding and overflowing of Rio Aldea, one of the town hardest hit by October 2024 flooded that killed more than 213 people. No casualties have been reported. On a Sunday afternoon, residents of the city received a red weather alert on this phone. The flooding caused by heavy rains in October last year were exacerbated by the effect of climate change. As a warning atmosphere holds more water, climate change increasing the risk and intensity of the flood from extreme rainfall. Local residents struggled to a series of protests against for the believed this mismanagement of last year's crisis calamity. The regional offices did not warn in the time, despite the fact that meteorological service had issued warning.
Nein, lass es! Ja, ich lasse es.
A powerful wave of hailstorm has battered several parts of Europe, leaving communities struggled with the damage, disruption and shock. The severe weather-struck countries including Italy, France, Germany and Switzerland were hailstorm the size of a golf ball. In the same areas, even larger fell in devastation force. In northern Italy, vineyards in Lombardy and Veneto were shattered, with the farmers reported crops losses of up to 18%. It's heartbreaking, said vineyard Gula Benager, surrounding the roof of destroyed vines. A whole year work lost in 15 minutes. France also suffered widespread chaos. In Lyon and Dijon, streets turned white into hail blanket cars and black drains, caused sudden flash floods. Motorways were brought in standstill, and authorities reported dozens of incidents and drivers struggled with the ice conditions. In southern Germany, roofs were smashed and a window shattered, particularly in Bavaria, where emergency crews responded to thousands of calls within hours.
Well, that's one hell of a hailstorm.
Istanbul was hit by a sudden and severe hailstorm that turned a bustling metropolis into a scene of chaos and destruction. The storm, which lasted less than an hour, brought hailstorm the size of a golf ball, smashed windows, damaged cars and injured dozens of people who were outdoors. The city's streets were quickly covered with a white layer of hail, with a blockade and severe and causing sudden flooding. Major highways, including Bosphorus Bridge, were paralyzing and cars were unable to drive through the city's sewers. Public transport was severely disrupted. Tram lines were blocked and ferry service across the strait were suspended. Istanbul International Airport also reported delays after runways were brilliantly covered in hail. Emergency service responded there hundreds of calls, rescuing people trapped in their cars and clearing collapsing owners and heat collapsing under the weight of hail. Hospitals treated dozens of people and cars and heat injuries, and authorities confirmed at least 2 deaths related to this storm. Residents described a sense of panic. It felt like the sky was falling. The noise of hail falling on the roof was different. In a matter of minutes, our streets looked like a cat snow white, said Ice Demir, a shop owner in Cadio. Video posted online showed buses stuck knee-deep in the water and trees blocked by the force of the storm. Agriculture in the surrounding Marmara region suffered significant damage. Vineyard and orchards were damaged, threatening in the harvest and local livelihood. Insurance companies are already estimated the damage of tens of millions of euros. Several meteorologists, including lines 1, 4, and 13, experienced major distortion as the water swept in the station. Communities forced long delay with their rapid urgent residents to avoid necessary travel. Power outage left more than 25,000 homes in the dark, particularly in the Paris southern suburbs. The storm also damaged parts in the ELF tower lighting system, forcing engineers to shut it off to safety inspirations. Lighting stuck near Notre Dame Cathedral, great and dramatic by the homeless flash captured by onlookers. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo urged calm, praising first response to the swift action. Our city was forced to severe weather before, but the intensity of the last night's storm show how climate change is amplifying these events, she said. We will assist all those affected. They struggled our flood resilience. Meteorologists described the storm as one of the most violent in decades as a result of a powerful Atlantic depression scalding with warm continental air from the northern France. Experts warn that such extreme weather events could become more frequent if Europe's climate continues to warm. By morning, Parisians emergency to survive the damaged streets, littered, the branches flooded, cave terraces, and disrupted train schedule. Yet a month aftermath were also relief. Clear skies returned the city resilient spirit shone through the once again. We are dealing with a widespread roof damaging power outage, said Bavarian Fire Chief Markus Keller, who described the situation as apocalyptic. In southern France, vineyard and orange severely damaged, with some region reported a total loss of crops. Farmers in province of Rouen Alps region experienced a disaster after huge hailstones destroyed their vineyards. The storm took everything. Laminate windmark pulp Gerard, the harvest we have been waiting for all year, is gone. In Central and Eastern Europe, hailstorm intensified it. In Poland, the city of Krakow was hit by torrential rain, with freezing rain that flooded streets and damaged cars. In Austria, large hailstorms caused flights, delays, and forced airports with close temperatures. Meteorologists attributed this storm weather is unstable atmospheric layers, which are intensified due to global warming. Europe is now experiencing for more connective storms, phenomena accompanied by supercell lighting and giant hailstones, explained Dr. Petra Long in the European Meteorological Observatory. This is not a longer rarity, is becoming part of new normal. Authorities across the continent continue to assess the damage, warning the future determination is weather conditions. While cleanup crews work to repair the damage caused by the ice storm, many residents describe the surreal scene. Summer streets transformed into winter landscape in a matter of minutes. Air traffic across Europe was disrupted, with hundreds of flights cancelled or diverted. Truck driver forced dangerous motorway to ferry service across the North Sea were suspended. Meteorologists say the storm is a part of unusually active weather patterns that has swept across the continent and intensified due to the collisions of warm air masses with the cold Arctic front. We have seen storms and gathered intensify and unpredictability, which constants the climate change trend. As dawn broke, the full extent of the damage became more apparent. Europe leaders have promised to allocate emergency funds to aid in the recovery, but the many residents in the shock remain strong. One moment we were having dinner, and the next the roof was gone, recalled Italian Marco Bianchi and the essential Roman who is both here. Several music festivals and outdoors events were cancelled, leaving thousands and visitors stranded in makeshift shelters. Switzerland too reported significant damage. In Zurich and Lorentz, public transport was suspended as a hail closed rail lines and flooded tram tunnels. Airways saw delays, where insurers prepared for the decided one of the most expensive summer storms in recent years. Hospitals across affected countries treated hundreds of injuries from cuts of barriers and the most serious trauma caused by the fallen debris. Power outage hit tens of thousands of homes while schools and businesses closed in the hardest hit regions. Meteorologists explained that the storm was triggered by the collisions of humid Mediterranean air with the cold northern winds, producing intense supercells capable of generating giant hail. Scientists warn such events are becoming more frequent as Europe warns. We are seeing a climate shift, say climatologist Dr. Eva Schinder. Storms like these, once rare, are now a growing threat. Despite the disruption, communities are relevant. Volunteers cleared streets of ice, neighborhood shade through fruits and extended travels, and an emergency crew worked tirelessly to restore power. As Europe begin counting the cost and a hailstorm severe as another stark reminder of nature growing volatility and the urgent need to resilience in affairs of climate experts.